You are welcome again to Tebi Talks. In today's video, right now, we are going to see how we can understand what a switch is. In the last video, we looked at the networks, different types of network, and then we looked at the network topologies, and then we looked at we said that a network topology is the arrangement of different computer devices, physically and logically. But then we looked at these devices, and one of them we looked at being a switch. So we want to see the fundamental of how a switch, what is a switch and how is it used. Is it of advantage in a network? So generally we're going to look at a switch. So when you look at this device, this is a very technical, a very important device in a computer networking. Reason because we are saying a switch is a very fundamental network device. It's a fundamental. This is a fundamental network device. That operate at the data link. Layer. So if you are to remember the OSI model, the OSI model have different layers, and one of them is the data link layer. So in the data link layer, that's where we find the switch. And the reason why we find the switch there is so much fundamental, and we're going to look at how that one is done. During the data link layer, this is where data is exchanged, and the data exchange between different layers is something that enables communication, the transfer of data from one layer to another, and the device which enables that is what we call the switch. So we are saying we have around 7 layers on the network, and one of the layers is the data link. But each of these layers, like from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up to 7, each of these layers have to communicate with each other. So the way they communicate is very important. How data is transferred from one device to another, or from one layer to another, is very important. So what enables that is what we call the data link layer. It's the one that controls how data is moved from one layer to another, and we use a switch to do that. It's a device that operates on this layer, the data link layer. So ladies and gentlemen, device connectivity is one of the most important reasons as to why we need a switch. So we're going to look at uses of a switch. Why do you need a switch? We need a switch for device connectivity. So device connectivity, of course, we are saying that a switch will provide different ports to connect various devices such as computers, servers, printers. So like when you look at these ports, like we have different ports. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, like you see 1. We have port 1. These are what we call the ports. So each of these ports will connect different devices. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up to I think I have 22 ports. So all these ports will connect various devices such as e.g. like we have computers, we have servers, we have printers, and then we have the IP phones and many others. So all these devices, they are connected to these ports in the switch, and the reason why they are connected is because we want to see how they can coordinate in terms of data transfer by using these switch devices. So it's very important to understand that each device can be connected to a certain port on the switch, allowing for efficient and simultaneous communication among the other connected devices. So when you connect, for example, a device here on this port 1 can be a printer, and then on this one port 2 can be a server. So a printer or a computer can communicate to the server with the help of this switch, because this is now acting as a medium of communication. It is acting as the exchange of what? Exchange of communication among connected devices. So the other advantage is that when we talk about networking, a switch will work as a segment in the local area network. So switches enable network segmentation by creating multiple virtual local area network. So you can divide single physical network, like you have one switch, and then this switch can enable you to divide one single network. If you have your network here, you can divide that network into different segments, so that you can have network 1, network 2, network 3, and then network 4. All these are what we call the segments of network, which are done on a local area network. So we have what we call the virtual local area network. This virtual local area network obtained by dividing the switch or dividing the network into different segments with the help of the switch. So we talked about, that was number 2. This is number 1. So number 2, we're talking about the local area network segment. Local area network segment. So the local area network segment, we talked about switches enabling network segmentation. Of course, I've explained how that one's done. Then the other advantage, which is very important, is what we call the traffic control and management. Traffic control and management. Traffic control and management, ladies and gentlemen, is very, very important advantage or use in networking. So with the use of the switch, the MAC address will help to identify and forward the network traffic to appropriate destination. So the MAC address, of course, this is where you have different network traffic being sent to different destination. So by examining the destination of each and every address in form of incoming frames, the switch can make forwarding decision, like they can make decision on which port to be connected to, on which port can be connected to the other one. So this will improve the efficiency and then minimize the unnecessary traffic. So what we are talking about is that each of these ports here, they have, when you are connecting, we have what you call the MAC address. The MAC address, each of this device will have an address which is connected to the switch. So every time you connect your device to the switch will enable you, or it will control the traffic by assigning address to a certain device, and then from there they will know, hey, this device wants to connect, this one wants to connect, so they can control that kind of traffic on a network. So number 4, which is also very important, is something to do with the bandwidth optimization. Bandwidth optimization. So the bandwidth optimization, of course, this one is the ability to transmit data simultaneously to multiple devices connected to different ports. So as you see, we have different ports on our switch here. All these ports, now the ability the ability to transmit data at the same time. That's what we call simultaneous. When I talk of simultaneous means at the same time, multiple data transmission at the same time to multiple devices connected to different ports. When you have different devices, I say computer 1, computer 2, you have like 10 computers connected to these ports on a switch, so that the ability where data can be transferred from one device to another at the same time is what we call the bandwidth optimization. So with this one, you can allow efficiency of utilizing the available network bandwidth and the quality of services, and also different prioritizing in specific types of network. So you can easily optimize like the bandwidth, the quality, and also how each devices can be utilized on a network. So it's very, very important to understand the logic or the science behind the bandwidth optimization by knowing how devices. Of course, we're saying this is a switch. We're saying this is a switch, and we have different ports. Now we have port 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So from here, each port can be connected to a certain device. Each port can be connected to a certain device, and this device, say computer 1, computer 2, computer 3, computer 4, computer 5, and so on. So now we are talking about the ability to transmit data simultaneously. Now the way data can be transmitted, data is being transmitted from this computer to this one to this one. All these computers can transmit that at the same time. That is simultaneous, is what we call the bandwidth optimization. So if the switch has that ability to enable data be transferred between different devices at the same time without any interruption, then we say that the switch has what we call the bandwidth optimization. Then the other advantage, which is number 5, ladies and gentlemen, is about the network expansion and scalability. So with the switch and network expansion and scalability. So with this advantage, of course, the switches can accommodate the growth of the network by providing additional ports to connect new devices. So when I talk of expansion, of course, you understand that this is how you can expand your network expansion. Like you have a network, you have a local area network, then you realize the network is not enough. If you have 50 computers and then you want to add 10 computers to be 60 computers, but now the ability for you to be able to expand and add more 10 computers and then have the ports on the switch. So a switch should have the ability to provide ports for expansion. When you have other 10 ports or even more than 10, whereby you can easily expand and bring more computers on board and then add them to the network, is what we call the network expansion scalability. So a switch have that capability. That's why it's a very important tool, that whenever you're having a network, when you have a switch which is up to the standard, then you are not worried of the expansion. In case your network becomes small, you need to add more computers on your network, you can easily get the chance of adding them. Then number 6 is something to do with security. Security, everyone talks of security in different ways. So when we talk about computer security, specifically network, this is where we have the port security, where network administrators can control which devices are allowed to connect to device ports and so on. So here of course you have what we call the SCL. The SCL, this is something to do with access control list. The list of devices, how administrators control the list of devices. Administrator control or access control is how administrators can control the list of devices which can be connected to the ports on a switch. Like you see all these switches here. So as an administrator, you have the ability to control which one connects to the other one, and from there, of course, now you will be ensuring, you will be enhancing what we call security. Reason because this type of this feature will prevent unauthorized access to the network. So for example, if you have, this is a switch, and then the administrator decide to block you, like this is computer 3, you cannot have access to the switch, it means that you will not have access to the rest of these computers which are on this network, which are connected here. And by doing so, if this computer had the harm, then you would have blocked them on the network. So it's very important to monitor and see how best security is enhanced on any kind of a network. So number 7, and which is the last one, is what we call the network monitoring and troubleshooting. Network monitoring and troubleshooting. Troubleshooting. When I talk of troubleshooting, you understand what I mean. In the computer technology, this is finding out the errors, finding out default, and then you resolve them. That's troubleshooting. So switches, when you're using a switch, of course, it will help you to monitor and troubleshoot. Monitoring, trying to analyze and see where is the default, where is the problem. After getting the problem, then it will go ahead and fix it. So how is this done? This is done by generating the logs, and monitoring the ports traffic. The logs is how activities are being done over the network, and the traffic on the ports, different ports, how the traffic is done on those ports. So by doing that, of course, now you can easily track the statistics, the network statistics. Statistics like in form of course, we talked about the logs, in form of the traffic, and from there, after knowing how all this is done, then you can now monitor and troubleshoot and see, like, hey, the traffic here is too high. Then you can see how can it reduce by going and reading the logs on how different activities have been taking place over the period of time. You can easily now troubleshoot and resolve a problem if it arises. So switches uses a network protocol which is called the Simple Network Management Protocol. We call it the Simple Network Management Protocol. The Simple Network Management Protocol. This is Simple Network Management Protocol. This is a protocol which the switches use. This is the protocol that is supported by the switch to allow central management and monitoring of network. So this protocol, of course, you know what a protocol is. So for you to be able to manage and monitor any activity, anything that is that is happening on your network, you need this type of a protocol, and this protocol is also supported by the switch. So after looking how all this one is done, looking how the switch is, the uses, we said the switch is a fundamental network device which operates at the network layer. a network layer using the using the OSI. These are like the internet layers on the network. We have around 7 layers. We have 7 layers on the network. So these layers include they include things like we have different layers on the network, and one of those layers include the network layer. We have, I'm going to list for you the different layers. Let me see how I can wrap this. I will have this. I have 7 layers that you need to understand. The 7 layers on the network that you need to understand. The first layer is called the physical layer. Say 7 layers on network. The first one is called the physical layer. So what is this layer all about? This is the lowest layer of the OSI model. The OSI model is the open system interconnection. The open system interconnection. How different connections are done on your system. So the open system interconnection has 7 layers. So and those layers, they help in understanding and organizing different activities in the network communication. All the 7 layers, they will help you in understanding and organizing different activities involved in your network communication. And one of those layers, the first one, is what we call the physical layer. So with this one, of course, it deals with the physical transmission of raw bits, raw data. When I talk of the raw bits over communication, the bits we say these are the smallest unit of a computer memory, which is in the form of zeros and one. So the way these bits are transmitted or are moved from one device to another is what we call it's what is happening at the physical layer of the OSI model. So number 2 is what we call the data link layer. Data link layer. So at the data link layer, this is where we provide error-free and reliable transfer of data frames between 2 adjacent nodes on a network. So we ensure integrity and establish a logical connection between nodes. So here we said the switch. When we talked about the switch, we said the switch works at the data link layer. So the switch we have been talking about, it works on the second layer of the OSI model, and the reason why it works there, it controls how different data frames can be transferred from one device to another. So the third layer on the OSI model is what we call the network layer. The network layer. So with the network layer, this one will handle the routing of data packets across different networks. So it will determine, like the network layer, this one will determine the best path. Like we have different paths. This one different path or different routes that can be used. So determining the best path for data transmission based on network condition, and then addressing different routing protocols. This is done on the network layer. Like which path do you want to use? if you want to transfer data, which route you want to use. So that one is done at the network layer. Then number four is what we call the session layer. So on the session layer, ladies and gentlemen, this is the layer that establishes, manages, and terminates communication session between applications. So of course we have seen on the network there are very many activities going on, multiple simultaneous activities going on. So at a time T, some activities can be eliminated, some activities can be terminated. Now in a scenario where certain sessions between different applications that are running can be terminated, is done at what we call the session layer. Then number 5 is what we call the presentation layer. The presentation layer. So on the presentation layer, this is where the syntax and the semantics of information exchange between applications are handled. So here we do what we call data formatting, encryption, compression. So at this part here, this is like now you are trying to present your data. You are trying to present your data to the end user, to the end user devices. So here, this is where now things of encryption comes in. Encryption to do with security. Things with compression, that is storage. How what's the size of the data? Is it big? Then you have to compress it. Does it need security? Then that's where encryption is done. So all that one is done at what we call the presentation layer, ladies and gentlemen. And then number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Number 6, I may see transport. I think I forgot number 4. Number 4 is supposed to be transport layer. So this is number 4. This is number 5. This is number 6. So number 4 is transport layer. Transport layer. Don't mind about the numbering. I say this is number 5, 6, then 4. I had forgotten number 4. So number 4, because they are supposed to be in order, number 4 is called the transport layer. This is where the end-to-end transport of data between hosts on the network is done. So here you have to break the data streams into small segments, and each segments can be handled and reassembled to ensure data integrity through the error checking mechanism. So with the transport layer, this is for example, if you have a data of 1 megabyte, this can be broken into different segments of maybe instead of megabytes, you can put in different kilobytes. You break it into the smallest data segment, which can be easily transported over the network. So number 7, which is the last one, is what we call the application layer. Application layer. So the application layer, this is the topmost layer of the OSI model. This is the topmost layer of the open source system interconnection model. So this one provide the network services directly to the end user application. So of course now at the end of the day, this is what we use with the end users, the clients. Like whenever you're on a network, you see you are enjoying the network, enjoying the computer applications, you don't know what has happened. All these other layers, you cannot easily see them. You only see what happens at the application layer, because now you have the application that you're enjoying it, but then do you know what happened? We have the physical layer, the data link layer, network layer, the session, the presentation, transport. Then for you, you are enjoying the application layer, but this is all about the OSI model. Now, the reason why I brought you this is to ensure that, to show you how these layers work together. Now, having a device like a switch which works on the data link layer, we say the data link layer, this one determines how data can be transferred between other layers. Now, now you can see how important a switch is. When you get time, or if I get time, I'll get the switch. I can demonstrate to you how the ports are, how we can connect different devices to the switch physically. Then I will demonstrate the video showing how that one is done. Then when we are planning to have live sessions in some part of the country, we can also be showing you physically how that one is done, so that you can come, you configure, we configure different devices together, and then from there we can see how we can support each other to understand these tools, and then we start using them practically. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for being part of this class. We love you guys because you support us by liking and subscribing and sharing, so why not? We have to say the thank you. Gonna wish you a nice weekend. Let's catch up, guys, in the next video. Remember to subscribe and hit on notification area, so that whenever you see we upload any kind of video, you guys can be notified, and then you'll get what you want. Otherwise, if you have anything you want us to tackle about, please feel free to send us a message, then we can talk about it. Otherwise, let's see you guys in the next video. Thank you very much.